So does this car on your screen really exist? Supposedly, it is sitting at a war museum in Vienna. That is the story. And according to the story, it belongs to Franz Ferdinand, the guy who, when he got assassinated, that led to World War I. And then, of course, that left the conditions behind that eventually led to World War II and the entire geopolitical climate of the 20th century, is the story. And the guy who was in the car, Franz Ferdinand, this car, its number plate is AIII118. That just so happens to be the day of the end of the same war. So the guy was killed while he was traveling around in this car. And then that was in 1914. And then and that led to a war, a whole world war as it's now known, the Great War as it was called at the time supposedly. The day of the armistice was supposedly on the number plate of the car that he was traveling around in when he got assassinated. Now you can see an issue there. How is it that an assassination in 1914 led to a world war that would end in 1918 and the date of the armistice would be on the number plate of the car of the guy who was assassinated that led to the war? You can see how this is a very strange situation. And I've come up with an idea. It's a crazy idea and it might not work, but I think you'll be interested to hear my idea. So stay tuned for that. First of all though, I just spent literally hours. This took me like 4 or 5 hours to take a fakeologist audio chat, a mammoth 6-hour audio chat, which was just one big file, and then separate it into multiple files, balance the audio, remove the dead air, and then insert a few clips here and there to make the whole thing more listenable. It took me a lot longer than I expected. If I had have known how long it would take, I probably wouldn't have bothered even starting. But once I started, I was like, oh well, I might as well just keep going and get this thing finished. So this is, as far as I'm concerned, the most well-rounded fakeologist audio chat that you could hope to listen to. They've done 1,400 audio chats at fakeologist.com over the last 10 years. And I've listened to most of them. And I've been involved in some of them. This one I was involved in, but I was only speaking for like 10% of the time. The rest of the time was other people speaking from all around the world about a range of topics. In fact, I happen to have a little handy-dandy piece of paper here. Here are some of the topics that were covered. The Franz Ferdinand car, which we'll come back to in just a moment. The idea that some people want to police each other's words. Even in this corner of the internet, some people are like, you can't say that. You shouldn't say that. Don't call your children kids. That means you're calling them goats. And then people are like, well, I don't think my kids are goats. I just call them kids because it's easier than calling them children. Well, you shouldn't call them that. You're part of the... Anyway, we talk about that topic and so much more. Truth is really happy. I get the sense that a lot of so-called awake people are actually quite miserable. And I'm not trying to criticize them. I don't consider myself that happy. But I definitely don't consider myself miserable. Some people, though, when I listen to them, I'm like, that guy sounds like there's nothing good going on in his life. That's how I feel sometimes listening to some people who are supposedly awake. Which leads me to wonder, are some of these awake people miserable? So we talk about that. We talk about Alex Jones, how some people fell for the FEMA camps and the Fukushima radiation. We talk about that episode of Seinfeld where George explains that it's not a lie if you believe it. What if the celebrities and the politicians and the so-called billionaires, what if they actually believe in history themselves? What if they believe all the stories? If that's the case, they're not lying, they believe what they're saying. What if the lies go way beyond TV, so-called science, so-called academia? What if the lies go all the way to the top? And in that case, they're not really lies, this is just a fake history that everyone believes, including the so-called elites. What if? We talk about the border crossing from America to Mexico or vice versa. Are there really people walking across on foot the way that some people believe? Is there some way to test this idea? Are native people the stories we've been told about how long certain indigenous cultures have been around? Are those topics worthy of being questioned? Guys, we cover a lot of stuff in this. I even explain why I believe that we are surrounded by Agent Smiths. Regular people, not paid shills, not sent by the government, but when certain topics are challenged, out comes Agent Smith. And I also put forward an idea as to how you can test, anybody can test, if we were living in a simulation, would there be some way to test it? I've come up with a way to test it that anyone can try for themselves. And so I talk about that and so much more on this here episode of Fakeologist Audio Chats, which I have separated into 3 easy to stream and or download files, each about 90 minutes to 2 hours long. So you don't have to download the 6-hour ridiculous file that Abdefakeologist uploaded. I have instead taken the time to separate it into 3 separate files. And I have balanced the audio and got rid of the dead air and inserted some clips to make it more listenable. So this is waiting for you right now. All of those topics covered. Like I said, I'm only talking for about 10% of the call. The rest is other people, and they are very interesting people, most of them, with some good questions to ask, some good ideas about what's going on. So many topics were covered. It was a constructive, cordial conversation. The kind of thing that I'm looking for, personally. And Fakeologist sometimes has those kinds of calls. Sometimes the calls are terrible, full of toxic people just talking shit about each other. Really, it's a disaster. But this wasn't one of those ones. This was one of the good ones, which is why I spent some hours tonight cleaning this audio up, separating it into the separate files, uploading it for you to now go and download or stream at your leisure if you're interested. But getting back to this number plate thing, so somebody in the call said, JLB, what if that thing's a hoax? So this story about Franz Ferdinand with the number plate, with the end of the war date on his number plate, what if that's a hoax? I was like, you know what? I don't think it's a hoax, because I think the car is sitting in a museum somewhere in Vienna. And the guy was like, but what if that's not real? And I'm just paraphrasing the general gist of the conversation. You can listen to it for yourself. The point is, what I did was I looked up how much would it cost me to fly from Bulgaria to Vienna? How much would that cost? If I just wanted to go and see this car for myself and document it for all of you around the world here at johnlebon.com and the John Lebon YouTube channel, if I wanted to go to Vienna for myself, see this car, document it, maybe even speak to the expert there, maybe even walk up to the expert and be like, hey bro, how you going, man? Yeah, I'm just some tourist from Australia. Listen, man, this car is pretty crazy. What's the deal with the number plate? And he could be like, well, you know, it's very strange. We get questions about that number plate because you see the 11118. You know, some people, they can't believe the coincidence. And I'll be like, yeah, like, so that's, am I understanding this properly? This is the car that Franz was in the day he got killed back in 1914. And the guy will be like, yeah, it's a very strange thing. He was in this car and he was assassinated when he was traveling around that day and it led to the war. And yeah, the number plate. And I'll be like, yeah, the number plate. What's going on? I might even ask some of the other people in the museum. I'll be like, hey man, I'm just some crazy tourist from Australia just making a video for some of the people who watch me. Can I ask you a question? Have you seen this car over here? And they might be like, well, yes. That's one of the things that we're here to see, as a matter of fact. We're here to see Franz Ferdinand's car. And I'll be like, yeah, so see the number plate there? Do you notice anything about that number plate? And they might be like, well, yeah, you can see it's been shot. I'm like, no, I'm not talking about whether it's been hit by shrapnel. I mean, do you notice the numbers on the plate? And they might be like, no, what about it? I'll be like, what day was Armistice Day? What day is Remembrance Day? And they might be like, why, it's 11/11/18. I'll be like, yeah, take a look at that number plate. Take a look at it. It's right in front of you, son. And they might be like, well, that's a very strange coincidence. So you see, guys, there's lots that I could do if I went to Vienna, and I'm thinking of doing it. However, the truth of the matter is, I'm just a poor, starving truth artist with not much money. No money at all, in fact. I can't afford to just take a random flight to go and see a museum history hoax artifact. I can't do it. But I know that some people out there have crazy amounts of money that they want to spend on things that are interesting. So, I'm putting the call out there. If you want to see JLB go to Vienna in a couple of weeks, I can do maybe this weekend, maybe the 27th of April. What are we now? The 10th. I could do the 20th. I could even do the 14th is a bit early. I could do this weekend, where the tickets are about $100, the weekend after. If I wake up and there is an amount of money to cover the costs of the flights and accommodation in my PayPal account, I don't care who sends the money. I don't care if my CIA is giving me my Christmas bonus early. If I wake up and the money's in the bank, I'm booking the tickets, okay? And I will record all my transactions so you can see that all the money that you sent has gone towards this trip. I'm estimating between the flights, the accommodation, and the food, I'm estimating $700 Australian dollars. So I'm not asking anybody for the money, by the way. This is not some appeal for money. I'm just saying if you're one of those people who has ridiculous amounts of money lying around and you want to influence what happens with this channel going forward, you can influence. I will go to Vienna. I'll do it. I'll fly to Vienna and I will document this car And I will show you that it does exist. Now, that doesn't mean that the car was really there when some guy got a SAT. I don't even believe that story, folks. But just so from now on, I don't get this thing said to me, which I've had said to me before. Oh, what if the car doesn't exist? Blah, blah. Okay, I will go and show you. This is the official story, folks. I'm not making this up. There is a car somewhere in Vienna, in a museum, and according to the official story, it says AII 118, as in Armistice 11/11/18. And this is the car which Franz was travelling around that day that he got killed. And that led to World War I. And then that left behind the conditions that eventually led to Adolf and World War II. And then that led to the conditions that led to the Cold War, which led to Korea and Vietnam and even Iraq and Afghanistan. So all of the geopolitical nonsense of the 20th century goes back to a guy sitting in this car, travelling around, and then someone decided to kill him for some reason. And then somehow, the date of the armistice 4 years later is on the number plate. Absolutely crazy stuff, folks. So, I'm not asking for your money. I really couldn't. I believe this place does exist. I don't need to go there to see it. I believe this car does exist and the museum does. But if you want to see JLB on the ground, talking to regular people, other tourists and the VNS, what do you call people from Vienna? VNS, whatever they are. If you want to see me talking to these lovely folks and asking them, hey, what's the deal with this? I could even play dumb. I could just walk in there with my camera around the camera strap around my neck and just walk. If it's a nice sunny day, I can walk around in my singlet, just be like some crazy Aussie tourist. And then I can be shocked. I can be like maybe they do a tour and I can be like, let's just say the tour guy's name is Hans. I can be like, Hans, question, man. Is that the number plate that was on the car when this happened? And Hans will be like, why, yes. And I'll be like, Hans, is this a joke? Are you joking me, mate? Because that can't be the number plate. He'd be like, why not? I'll be like, that's the day of the armistice. And then he might be like, oh yeah, we get this a lot. I'll be like, nah, Hans, this is a... And I'll start looking at other people in the tour group. I'm like, guys, this is a joke. You guys are all playing a joke. This is a Truman Show style joke, right? This can't possibly be the number plate. I could do a big song and dance. I don't know. I've got different ideas of what I could do. But I'm only going to do it if somebody wants me to do it. If you want me to do it, send the money. If you don't want me to do it, don't send the money. I don't really care either way. Maybe in the summertime, I'll go and do this of my own accord. All I'm saying is right now, I'm not going to fork out $700 to go and see a museum that I'm pretty sure does exist. But if you want to influence the future of John LeBon, johnlebon.com, John LeBon YouTube, if you want to see somebody document the existence of this car and this number plate, then you know what to do. And regardless of all of that, go and check out the latest JLB chats available for free. 6 hours, no, it's 5 hours actually. 5 hours divided into 3 files where I have taken, this took me hours. I took the file, separated into 3. I balanced the audio, got rid of the dead air, added in some clips, including some for comedic effect. I do think you'll enjoy this. This is 3 parts, download or stream. Link in the comment section below. And let me know what you think, folks. Do you think this car really exists? What do you make of all of this? Should JLB fly to Vienna? Should he fly to Vienna and see for himself if the car... I'll do it, folks. Don't think I won't. Honest, I'm serious. I know some of you guys believe that the CIA really cares about this stuff, which I don't think they even exist, let alone do this kind. But let's just say they do. There could be some guy in Langley, Virginia, and he has unlimited money. Hey, my CIA's, Langley, send me $700 Australian, and I'll book the tickets tomorrow, and I'll fly to Vienna, and I'll go and see this car. I'll do it. What else am I doing? Seriously. What else am I doing? Sitting around? Sober? Sober as a freaking church mouse? I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Plovdiv, but it's when you're sober. Do you know how painful it is for me to be around people when I'm sober? Most of them, it's just, I would rather be sitting on my balcony watching the river. Just watching the water go past. Honest to God, that's more entertaining for me than going out when I'm sober. And sadly, I'm sober right now. Probably for a long time. So, I could stay here in Plovdiv, and I'd love to, but I could also take a little weekend trip out to Vienna. And I could take a look at this Franz Ferdinand car. And of course, once I do that, that's not going to shut anybody up. The same people who still want to reject this will still come back and say, oh, but JLB, maybe they just invented this car for... And I'll be like, yeah, maybe they did. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is, according to the official story, and this is very important, according to the official story, Franz was in his car. Okay, he was traveling around. And then someone called Gavrilo Princip decided to waste him. And he tried once, it didn't work. He came back again later that day and tried again. That's the story, folks. In fact, the story is that Franz, the Gavrilo dude, his initial attempt at assassination didn't work. So he went to a bar to commiserate, I guess, to, drown his sorrows. And then who turns up out of the blue? His target from the assassination just happens to roll on up in this car. So Gavrilo says, oh, this is my lucky day. I'll try again. Chick, chick, boom. And that was the end of old mate Franz Ferdinand. That's the story, folks. Again, if you don't believe me, just go and read. Just go and read the official story. It's incredible. Anyway, that's enough from me, folks. Hope you enjoyed this video. Leave your comments in the comments section below. If you want to see JLB take a trip out to Vienna, send us $700. Yeah, boy. But guys, this is not an appeal. If you're like, oh, JLB's begging for... Guys, I really don't care either way. I'm just saying, if you recently came into $700 Australian and you don't know what to do with it, you could influence what happens over the next 2 weeks. Anyway, just putting the idea out there. Let's see what the cosmos has. I'll wake up in the morning, and you know what I think will happen? There'll be no money in the JLB tip jar. That's what I think. And you know what? Doesn't bother me. I'll stay here in beautiful Plovdiv, Bulgaria, making podcasts about what I consider to be the truth, but most people don't give a shit about. And why should they? Who cares, really? End of the day. Live your life, I say. Enjoy your life. Because life is short, apparently. Yeah, boy. Shit, man.
Dodo, stand up. You are no longer extinct.
Oh, what are you talking about now?
Your fridge is actually informing the government on what you're eating.
Oh, what are you talking about now?
Like, they'll lead us off on a merry dance, mate. We're halfway down the garden path already.
Are you following this show at all?
I don't think, therefore I'm not.